All right. What we got here today is a good example of someone that believes that they are an incel who has artificially imposed that label on themselves without actually knowing if that's the reality of their life. And this is a really interesting one. It's a short one, and this came out a couple of years ago. So by my math, it would say that this person is now 38 instead of 36. So we're going to read this Reddit thread here. And I want to just get your thoughts on this. I really think this is an interesting one here. We're going to dive back into the world of incels. So be careful, everybody. r/TrueOffMyChest, right? I'm a 36-year-old incel. I turned 36 years old this month, and I'm an incel. I've been in denial over this for a long time. I've been a loner growing up and kind of drifted from social circles in my 20s. Before I ever knew it, my 20s was almost over. At age 29, I stayed focused on self-improvement and started working out. I got in the best shape of my life, and for the first time in my life, I had confidence in myself. I worked a dead-end job at this point and decided to start a business one day out of the blue. I became obsessed with growing my business and didn't have much time to do anything else. I worked 15 hours a day for 3 years straight, and my business was really successful over the years. Things are good now. My business is a success, and I have more time to do things if I choose to. Lately, I had a lingering, lonesome feeling in my heart. I've always been the type to not address my emotional well-being and just turn things off. This was normal for me growing up in a dysfunctional family and not having many friends or close ones. I've been depressed and not happy. I've come to the realization that I'm an incel. It didn't occur to me that I'm an incel until I read the meaning of it, meaning involuntarily celibate. I never got any girls growing up or in my 20s. I've never had a girlfriend. I started my self-improvement journey because I thought I would get more girls. But the problem is that I don't know how to get girls at this point. I'm old and honestly feels like I've missed the boat. A part of me has honestly given up. How do I even go about getting out of this mindset at my age? On a pen and paper, I have everything I need and my life should be great. Anyways, just wanted to get this off my chest. Thank you for listening. Well, this is an interesting one. All right, OP, we're going to cover this. I don't really think you're an incel based off of what you wrote here. Now, granted, you are 36 years old here, and now at this point you're 38. And you're probably asking yourself, wow, you know what? I wasted a lot of time doing everything other than what I wanted to do. But I don't agree, actually. I think you did exactly what you needed to do. You see, dear viewers of this podcast, one thing that I need you all to be aware of is that this individual here, this OP, did the right thing. He got himself in shape. He buckled down in his 20s and started working his ass off, and eventually, was able to get his own business. Now, the only thing that is missing is what his heart's desire, and that's a woman, somebody to be with, someone to hold in the middle of the night, someone to cuddle with and not be a loner his entire existence. The difficult thing about this really is that no matter how in shape you get, no matter how much money you end up making, no matter how much clout you get on the internet, that doesn't necessarily translate in social scenarios where you have to speak to members of the opposite or same sex, depending on what you're into. Based off of what I'm seeing here, he didn't really have a social circle and had a dysfunctional family left. I know what that's like. I've had the whole dysfunctional family thing and had to progress in spite of it, right? A lot of us have, One thing that I think is getting lost in translation here is that even though he did everything he was told he had to do, he ended up alone, right? And he feels that he's too old. Now, let me tell you something. 38, or at the time that this was written, 36, is not too old at all, okay? I'm 41 years old, and I don't feel like I'm too old. That just sounds ridiculous to me. Now, granted, it can, obviously easier said than done when you're the one that's in this particular situation, but it doesn't mean that you have no recourse. There's a lot of things you can do. What I want to actually do is, before I even, go on with what I would do, I want y'all to take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe this video, okay? Because your boy's trying to get monetized here. Now that we got that shameless promotion, that shameless plug out of the way, we're going to go back into this thread here, and we're going to read some things that people are telling him here just to see like what the internet has as advice, right? So one of them here is saying 36 is not too old to find someone. 100%. I agree with that. That's what I said earlier. 36 is still pretty damn young, okay? Then somebody else here says, definitely, to be honest, not having any prior experience is going to be tough. All the rookie mistakes still to make, lessons to learn, but being in shape, 36 old, definitely isn't a bad place to be if you want to settle. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, you basically have the building blocks to do what it is that you have to do. You just have to continue going. You know, there's going to be a lot of different things that you're going to have to do here from this point forward. Somebody else here says, in shape, financially stable too. Yeah, 100%. And then somebody here says, totally agree, OP. My younger brother is your age and spent all of his 20s identifying as asexual due to childhood trauma. He is an amazing shape guy, is a beast, coaches, parkour, etc., and is highly sensitive man. He's done a ton of therapy, and it turns out my bro is autistic, which didn't realize growing up. The man is kind and incredibly emotionally aware. Only now is he's hitting his stride with romantic relationships, and lots of women are super interested to the point of aggressively pursuing him. TLDR, it's not at all too late for you to start if you're willing to put in the work and keep an open mind. That is correct. And that's pretty interesting that you found out that, you know, your brother was autistic later on, but clearly he's a high functioning autist if that's the case. You know, they also mentioned therapy here. I will say this when it comes to therapy, just because you got yourself physically right doesn't mean you're psychologically there, right? But I don't really think therapy, like sitting down with an actual therapist, might necessarily be the solution here. Now, granted, you can if you want. I'm not against the idea of it. I think it can be helpful to spread your ideas to someone else that's willing to have a conversation with you and entertain this. If you do want to go into therapy, one thing that I do recommend is exposure therapy. Now, what is exposure therapy? I'm glad you asked, dear viewer. You basically want to put yourself in a situation where you are putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, but to a small degree. And through that small degree, it's going to gradually increase your confidence because you're doing it constantly. Think about it like this. I used this example in one of my earlier podcasts, right? If you are at a party or a social gathering with a bunch of people, you know, just practice saying hi to one person. You know, you don't even have to have a full-blown conversation. You can just walk by and wave to them, give them that little that little smirk, you know, that socially awkward smirk that everybody gives. And boom, you just, without realizing it, you interacted with somebody. Instead of taking the elevator all the time, you take the stairs. Then that gets your legs used to moving more. It gets you used to climbing up at a higher altitude instead of standing in place while you're taken somewhere. You see, because a lot of things that end up happening with us is that we aren't exposed to enough things that we're trying to get better at. You know, you wanted to get in shape, and you did. You buckled down and you started lifting those weights, and as a result, you got in the best shape of your life. So you can't say that you're not used to doing difficult things. I would 100% say that's a difficult thing to do. Now, when it comes to talking to girls, you know, just put yourself in social scenarios. You don't have to be with a group of friends, although it does help if you have any circle of friends at all whatsoever. It doesn't even have to be someone you've known forever. You could have friends at work, maybe somebody that you get along with, and you're like, hey man, do you want to just like grab a beer or just hang out? And put yourself in a position where you're going to be around the opposite sex. It doesn't matter what you're doing, just be there, okay? I personally like going to karaoke bars. I think it's really fun because I like singing and it's something I know how to do. If you're not a singer, which is okay because we all can't sing or dance, maybe you like playing pool, or you could do something low level like throwing darts. Just put yourself in a position where you're surrounded by other people, and those other people tend to intermingle with each other. You're going to have the opposite sex there, so you have opportunities to speak to them. Don't go crazy. Don't go like full tard and just try to be like, hey, you, come with me. Just put yourself in a situation where you're going to have casual conversations with them. You know, just ask them how they're doing. Make a comment on something that they're wearing. Maybe they have really nice, voluptuous, wavy hair. You could be like, hey, what kind of a shampoo and conditioner do you use to keep that thing? It might sound corny in the grand scheme of things, but it is also something that you can say just to sort of open up a conversation. Or heck, maybe you're not a drinker and you're not into any of this stuff. Maybe you like anime, right? Go to a convention. There's a ton of men and women that go to these conventions. A lot of them cosplay. You'll have some people that have really compelling and interesting outfits on. You know, you can ask them questions about it. Just put yourself in a place where there are people that are into the same type of things that you are, and it gradually becomes easier to talk to them. Now, I wish I could say that after you've done this a couple of times, the doors are going to open and doves are going to fly out and all of a sudden you have your happy ending. That's not the reality at all. Realistically, what's going to more than likely happen is you're going to get turned down a lot. And you're not going to get turned down specifically because of your looks, because that's something that you've got on lock, but you seem to not have very high social acuity based off of your original post. Now, again, if you don't have it, it's okay. These are things that are learned gradually. The same way you put the effort to get a nice honey glazed ham chest when you're like bench pressing or you're doing 1 billion push-ups, it's the same principle, except that you're interacting with other people. Now, me personally, I like to say, hey, if you're going to go out, try to go out with someone you know. Just bring a friend along with you, because you seem more approachable when other people want to be around you, you know? If you're that like oddball at like 4 a.m. at the end of a bar by himself who's like drunk and smells like cigarettes all night, that's probably going to be the guy that many people don't approach. So don't be that guy. You know, if you don't have any friends that you can go with, it's okay. Go on your own and just chill. Just survey the environment. Just be around other people. Allow yourself to get comfortable with the presence of other people around you, because I think that's important. I'll say this much, okay? I don't think it's over for you. 36 years old, you should be 38 by the time of this recording. That is by no stretch of the imagination too old, all right? Because if that's the case, then, you know, I should be a skeleton at this point, because I'm certainly older than that. It's okay if you feel hopeless because you failed a couple of times, right? I mean, who wouldn't? That's not the way that life works. You know, life is a cycle of tries and try again. You're going to fail at things. What matters is that you're able to dust yourself off, so to speak, and just continue doing what you got to do. Now, if you do need to see like a traditional therapist, I don't really think that's typically necessary for your particular situation, because you're just kind of like looking for somebody to be with. If it is something you want to do, just choose carefully. You know, choose somebody that has good ratings, somebody that cares. You might want to like read up on them and make sure that they're going to be somebody that really listens to your concerns and isn't just like nodding their head, you know, as approval and then telling you you're going to be fine. Somebody that's actually going to help you, I would recommend. It's never too late to be who you could have been. You're only 36 or you're 38 now. Okay. You have the physique, you have the finances, you have the hard work and dedication, which is something that a lot of people don't have. You have the Holy Trinity, okay? Now, all you need is to add somebody to share the wealth with. And you can do it. You just got to believe you can. Anyways, deuces.